let's move forward with our highly anticipated next segment. With recent workplace themes like the Great Reevaluation and the Great Resignation, making a career change has been more top of mind than ever for many people. But how do you make this kind of move? Our next speaker is someone whose career change made global headlines just a few months ago when she announced she was evolving away from tennis. I'm thrilled to welcome Bill Pappas, MetLife's Chief Technology Officer, and Serena Williams as they discuss the power of professional reinvention.
She won 23 tennis Grand Slam titles. Many say she's the greatest tennis player who has ever lived. She's a mom, a venture capitalist, an author, and she has her own fashion and jewelry lines. It is my pleasure to be joined today by the inspiring Serena Williams. Serena, welcome to the 4th Annual MetLife TTX Conference.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We are so happy to have you here. I thought I would get started, Serena, with just really just telling you a story, which in my mind really kind of capture the impact that you had across so many different people over the years. So fast forward to this morning, 5:30 a.m., dark. I'm getting ready to come here to have the interview. I'm in my zone. I'm already excited that I'm going to have the discussion with you. I'm thinking about the questions. And obviously, I didn't realize that I was going 30 miles more than the speed limit. As I was stopped, the trooper asked me, help me understand, why do you have so many Serena Williams articles in your car? Needless to say, I have at least 200 pages that I was reading about you the last couple of months. And making the very long story short, he agreed to let me go if I tell you the impact that you had to him over the years. So 2 things. 1, thank you. That never happened to me before. I always get a ticket. But the second thing is, how does that make you feel? The impact that you had on people that you probably have never met personally before.
That really warms my heart. You know, I started out playing tennis just because I wanted to be a good tennis player and I wanted to win a Grand Slam. And I say that not plural. I wanted to win a Grand Slam. I wanted to win US Open. And it just became more than I was aware of. And, you know, I think it's so authentic because I just was always authentically myself and I play my heart out. I give everything that I have in what I do, whether it's being a mom or whether it's doing VC or whether it is or was playing tennis. And so for me, that's so heartwarming to know that when you just do something authentically and you just do it as hard as you can and as best as you can, and you don't win all the time, but you try, and that means a lot to me.
No. So obviously you had an incredibly busy few months, highlighted, as you said, by evolving away from professional tennis. So how are you doing since this was announced?
So I've been really busy since this was announced. Actually, I have just been putting so much effort and so much time into my VC company. And it was so funny because when I retired, it was like whenever I went to play tennis, or to my main job, it was like I would tell my office, okay, I'm going out of the office for 2 weeks. I'll be back in 2 weeks. So it became a little stressful in the end. I was like, I can't run a fund and run a company and play tennis and be a mom. And honestly, I don't know how I did it, but I'm grateful and happy that I did it. I'm really grateful now that I have a chance to kind of just focus on being a mom and just doing what I can do and just finding a new norm, because my norm for so long has been tennis, just finding what that new norm is.
Yeah, and I like what you said, just finding the new norm. And again, I think there's a lot of people that are trying to pivot it in a career, and they found it to be both intimidating, but also in some cases, you talked about it, incredibly empowering. In many ways, it gives you an opportunity to write a new chapter of your story. What about that career evolution that you have, that you find it most intimidating, and what felt most empowering to you?
Well, I think the one thing that is most intimidating is the unknown, right? And the next steps. And it's like that's fear of the unknown, I think, is a really great fear that a lot of people have and a lot of people deal with. And I definitely for sure have that fear. I think I've dampened that fear by doing Serena Ventures a long time before. But still, it's like, how will I feel waking up not playing tennis? Amazing, you know? So, but I'm still, honestly, it's too soon. I think that's fair to say. It's just, it's so soon to kind of even figure everything out.
But also anything that was also empowering, things that you find, I mean, the whole idea that you're starting something new, was that empowering to you or anything else that came into your equation?
Yeah, I think it's empowering to just walk away from something that you're still really good at. And that
Yeah.
is, it's hard, but it's also empowering. Because I could still today say, all right, I'm going to go train for 5 weeks and be able to compete on the professional tour and win a lot of matches and be a really, really great player. Um, so that was empowering, and I wanted to have that ability, was to be able to still be in good spirits and be able to walk away at a good time.
Slowing down to really figure out what's going to come and how do you deal with that. But also at the same time, you talked about letting go when you're at the best. I think that's empowering too, because that's a decision that you made versus somebody else made for you. But also, as you're going into the new phase and the unknown, any lessons, what is the greatest lesson that you have learned as the time as a professional athlete that you can truly take into that next stage as you're going into the more unknown, as you're defining what that will be?
I think the one thing that I can say is just the next step is just I'm going to continue what I'm doing. Obviously, just I just want to also have fun. I've always had fun in everything that I've done and everything that I do, and I want to continue that. I want to continue to have a lot of fun. And there's so many things that I want to do that I haven't been able to do that I'm really looking forward to continue doing.
One of the things that obviously talked about it, you are an inspiration to a lot of people, but also a lot of women that they're part of this conference today. And there's a lot of women that they're looking to grow their career, whatever that is, a lateral move that requires developing new skill set or a step up or shifting to an entirely new industry. Do you have any tips that you can give them for how to can pivot successfully?
Yeah, I think having a plan is the most important thing that you can do. Plan it out, write it down, and don't and look back at your plan. Write goals, write your end goal, then write goals to get to your end goal. I think when you write goals, it's important to have smaller goals to get there, or else your goal might seem too lofty, or it might seem really impossible to get to and really hard to get there. So plan, write down your goals, accept that days are going to be really hard, because in everything I do, when I started my fashion brand or when I started my VC company or even playing tennis, there have been a lot of bad days that no one really talks about. And there's moments where you think, gosh, I just feel like just throwing it up and just leaving and just quitting and not doing this anymore. And I always tell founders and other people that that's when you know you're doing it good, is when you know that you're working so hard and things aren't, you just feel like, oh, I just can't do this anymore. It means you're doing something right. That's the moment where you don't want to give up. So yeah, I feel like those are things that are really important, and to continue to work on those.
Absolutely. And again, you talk about plan about it, be very purposefully. And I like what you said, just be ready that this is going to be tough, but tough, to your point, it means that you're growing, means that you're learning. Somebody always told me, go to something that you know 50% and you learn the next 50%. And it sounds very, very similar to that. Now, let's kind of shift. You talked about plan, and let's talk about Serena Ventures. So this is your venture capital firm that you started in 2014. So you started early enough thinking about that. What was so important for you to start that company 8 years ago, and why it's important for you now to turn your focus on what you're doing here?
Yeah, so I liked investing. I would be on the tennis court and I would see different companies and I would literally tell myself, I wish I had have invested in that company, or I wish I had have invested in that company. And eventually I started asking questions and I was like, okay, well, I can invest. And investing is not about putting in a tremendous amount of money. Sometimes you can put a smaller amount and you can watch it grow, or you can put a bigger amount and watch it grow. It's really about making it your own. Um, so with that being said, I just started like doing a little bit more investing. And then I learned about 4 or 5 years ago that women didn't get a lot in VC money. They got less than 2% of VC money at the time. The numbers have spiked very slightly. It's still so low that it's embarrassing. And that's why I started Serena Ventures, because I thought, okay, I've met a lot of great founders. I've met a lot of great companies. I'm having some good relationships, but this number is striking. It's insane. Also, by the way, um, people of color, Black people, and just people of color in general, got even less than the 2%. It wasn't even a full point. And so for me, that was really important to say, all right, wow, if I want to start a business, I'm a woman and I'm Black. Like I basically am not going to get funded. Just forget being funded and try to make it. And that's not how you want to be able to. That's why we live in these cycles where we see the same people succeeding over and over again. It's because we just never had the opportunity. And I'm a big believer that in order to make that opportunity, you need to have people writing the checks differently. Like attracts like. If I'm writing a check to a company, I'm going to attract like attracts like. And so I really think it's important to change those, the way things are done at a top level. And if you change it at a top level, then it starts to even out a little bit more. And so those are the things that I try to tell people and try to talk about is like, helping is amazing, but let's help in a bigger way by putting people in bigger positions.
Yep.
That way we can continue to track like, and that way we can really make change. And that's been a real mission of mine at Serena Ventures, and that's why I started it.
No, this is exciting, and part of what you said, and you kind of mentioned it, venture capital has been a growing asset class for decades, and yet again, to your point, the majority of where the VC dollars still go to companies with white male founders. And my daughter also tells me it's 2022. Why? But why do you believe this is still happening? I like your idea that we need to start and it's top down, but why do you still believe even that venture capital community still allocates more of the capital to white male founders?
I'm a big believer that it's because of the people writing the checks. If you
Yeah.
look a certain way, are you going to invest in a woman or your friend or a guy that looks like you? And it's a lot of subconsciousness. And so,
Yeah.
first of all, it's telling the message of like, this is wrong. Like, broaden your horizons. So now people are starting to broaden their horizons. Unfortunately, a lot of people are just checking boxes like, okay, we're going to create a separate fund just for this, and then we're going to just still do what we want to do. And it's like, all right, well, this person has the same company that this person started. Which one are you going to invest in? Obviously, it's really about the founders. Are they good founders? What are they doing? Are they going to be able to build a good team? Are they going to be able to grow? But if all those boxes are checked, then naturally people go with people that look like them. And you can't really say that that's wrong because that's how people do until you start to educate them. Now, when you start to educate them, it's like, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. I need to think outside the box. That's why I think it's so important to change who's writing the checks. So that way, if like attracts like is something that's human nature, let's have people like us writing those checks so we can attract other type of people.
I agree, and I always say you cannot be what you cannot see. So our role as leaders is to be able to figure out how do you grow the diversity across so people will be able to see and feel how this should be versus what it is today. But obviously, you talked about it, your venture is trying to flip the script. In fact, you have 66 startups. Most of them were started by women and people of color. But what do you really look in the companies that you invest in? You just talked about kind of, you're looking at the leader, you look at the CEO. What are those things that you're looking at for those companies that you invest your capital?
Well, the first thing I look at, can this company potentially be big? And what is the potential of it? Is it a fund returning company, or is it more of a company that, is going to just, be a solid company? So that's the first thing I look at. A lot of people on my team look at it different. Myself, I look at, is it going to return our fund? Okay, now
Yep.
check. So if we get that check, then I say, okay, tell me about the founder. And the way I invest in early stage companies, it's all on the founder. Is the founder going to be able to do what they say they're going to do? Are they going to be able to figure it out? Are they going to be able to hang in there when times get tough that I spoke about earlier? When they feel like, oh my goodness, I can't do this, I'm done. Are they going to be able to go through tough times that happens, like a pandemic, like COVID? Are they going to be able to pivot? Um, so those are things I look at. And then what is the team like? Are they building a team? How are they hiring? Are they hiring diverse people? Like what is it like? What is the pipeline of their future like? Do they have goals? And so it's a lot of due diligence. And I think I was able to
Yeah.
do a lot of this because I invested for so long, so many years with my own capital, that I learned a lot from things that I did right, and I learned a lot from things that I did wrong. And now when we do have outside capital, right now we're able to make better decisions.
I saw some of the out of those 66, so I can see how do you actually move them forward and can see some of those investments paid off. One of the things, we have plenty of companies with diverse ownership and leadership represented today at our conference, and our theme, as you know, is inspiring the next innovation wave. What role do you see women playing in developing those innovative solutions to the challenges that we face today?
I think overall confidence is something that everyone can just benefit from. But definitely leaning into some of those solutions and not being afraid. And when I say confidence, not being afraid to come up with solutions and be the first to think of something. And yeah,
I love that because you just mentioned confidence. So have confidence and not only being part of the solution, but develop those solutions, come up with those solutions. I
exactly.
love this is inspiring. I read that only 44 CEOs in the Fortune 500 are women, and only 2 of those women are Black. What needs to change in order to elevate more women into these leadership roles?
I just think it's opportunity, and feeling these companies feeling confident that we're just as good. And so at times we're better because we've had to be better. And that's what made me such a good tennis player, because everyone played me harder. Literally, everyone played me harder from the day I stepped to the court until the day I retired. And that's a proven fact. So often we're just overlooked. So it's really just about giving us those opportunities, because um, we won't disappoint.
So give opportunities, but also be confident enough to come up with your own solutions. I
Yeah,
love it.
exactly. Then it's like, okay, I'm the kind of person that's like, okay, well, I'm not asking for a handout, so I'm going to do it myself. And a lot of people don't have that opportunity,
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, it's just about, we need advocates. We need men to
yep,
advocate for us. And I think that's
yep.
really important. And so I think the more we have those male advocates, then the more some of those positions will be filled.
One of the things that you say that my girls would love, in some cases, way better than anybody else. I love that. I'll take that back home. But you mentioned mentorship and allianceship, key components, obviously, of helping women succeed. You once said in an interview that I love that you wouldn't be Serena if there was not for Venus. What role did Venus play in your success?
Um, every single role, there's definitely no Serena without Venus. She opened every loss that she had. And when I was watching her on the tour behind her, I was a year and a half, 2 years behind her. When she lost, I lost. I learned from that. I learned what not to do. I learned what to do. I learned how she handled so many situations that weren't ideal with grace. And um, I learned how it was so lonely eventually when we both got up the top, but we had each other to lean on, and we had each other to motivate each other. To the very end, I was always motivated by Venus to get out there and to train and to do it and to do it. And it was really good to have that motivation. And I feel like that was something that people can't quite understand, because who do you go to when you're literally one on one?
Yeah.
And it's hard to say like, oh, I can talk to this person, but they really can't relate with how you feel at the end of the day. but she could, because she was literally one of one. And it was something that really was special to me to be able to, even after some tough losses, literally the only person I would speak to is her, because she's the only person that can understand what I'm going through. Um, and yeah, and just having her there to push me to be a better player. She is and was such a good player that I had to be so good to beat her. And every time I
Yeah.
won a match against Venus, I literally couldn't believe I won. I would be like, I can't believe I won. I can't believe I did it. And it was very difficult. So, and unless you have that push and kind of pull and kind of relationship, um, it's something very special.
It makes so much sense, and one of the things that we're trying to do, even in MetLife, create those communities that people can really feel comfortable. People can be authentic and feel comfortable and authentic to feel vulnerable enough to learn from each other. So very different per se, but I definitely understand that dynamic and how beneficial that can be. Serena, one of the things that you just mentioned that I found it really inspiring, you talked about Venus just really handling setback with grace. So talk more about this in terms of any of your advice on how do you do that in all different settings, obviously, that women find themselves to be in.
Yeah, it's so Venus is handled so much with so much grace, and not just things that you see publicly. Has spoken a lot about the illness that she's went through and her Sjogren's and autoimmune disease that she has had to suffer and play with for so many years. And to see her get through that with, and that's another reason why I did so well, because I was like, I'm healthy. I need to be winning for us both. Because if not, if she wasn't healthy, then she would have been winning. So for me, the way she never complained about it and just like figured out a way that she could still compete. And it took a while. And, she went from being literally the best in the world to being sick and in bed and not able to even roll over at times. And so, and then everything that she faces on the court and just always so graceful, I think is something that I was able to learn so much from. And yeah, I wasn't as graceful, but I was very fiery, and that's just my personality. But it's all on the court. The second I step off, it's just literally a different person. And just handling, and then eventually I was able to start to handle different moments and different situations a lot better, and all because of my experiences and learning from her.
A lot of people will be inspired by it and just trying to figure out how they can actually apply themselves. So thank you for that. You're also known to have an incredibly supportive partner in your husband, Alexis. What lessons do you feel that other men can learn from him on how to be a true ally for women, both at home but also in the workplace?
It's good. He tries really hard at everything that he does as well. We're a lot alike, and he loves to just compete, and he loves to be great at what he does, and he's literally the best in any that I've ever seen at what he does. And I have to say, he works very hard. He's an extremely hard worker. And so I'm the one telling him to take time. I'm like, you take time off or just relax or do something for yourself. And he doesn't really do those things a lot. Um, so yeah, it's kind of it's again, it's really motivating, but we definitely keep business and home. So we don't necessarily go out and do talk business. And sometimes I'll be like, I will ask a question. It's not him so much. I'll be like, listen, so have you heard of this deal? And he'll give me some background on it, and I'll be like, okay, thanks. And that's it. So we keep it very, very separate.
That's great. Now, obviously, you work so hard. You talk about even Alexis to achieve the level of success that you have. Any advice that anyone you felt they gave you that was really worth it throughout the career that you still remember, Serena?
I think Venus is recently giving my new favorite advice. It's whenever anyone tells you you can't do it, it's because they can't. And they're putting on you what they can't do. So don't believe that. Do what you can do, and don't let them put what they can't do on you. I just thought that was genius. So yeah.
So don't let anybody else put the limitation on you. I love that.
Yeah, if you can't do something, it's because they can't. It's not because you can't. So keep trying and you'll do it.
The other thing is you're also a newly author. I mean, I read that you have a new book that came out there, Quay Quay, with that you really, at least your daughter thinks that you wrote it for her. So just talk about it. Why now? Why you thought it was so important for you to write that book?
Yeah, so I've been working on this book for a really long time, actually, and it's The Adventures of Quay Quay. So Quay Quay is this doll that has her own personality that we kind of grew up on social media, and she has like all these thousands and thousands and thousands of followers. And she just has her own personality. And so she wrote a book. So I just always felt like it all started because I wanted my daughter to have a black doll, and I wanted her to have, and then she had a personality, and I would post about it, and then she just became Quay Quay. But also in COVID is when I started working on this, because I was like, wow, I remember when I was growing up, I would use my imagination a lot, and COVID is bringing that back. I don't want to put my daughter on a device. I need her to use her imagination, and that's what the whole story was about. It was about kids, re-engaging that imagination and saying, okay, what did we used to do? And let's go play in mommy's closet. And it's like, what can we do? And it's the adventures. So it was like, that's just one adventure. We would like to continue to do more, but that's kind of what it was about. It's just really engaging kids to go on these, using their imaginations and go on these adventures, and then also having a message of you can be anything and you have to believe in yourself, and the standard messages that a lot of books tell nowadays. But it's actually really true, and that we're all right when we say these messages.
Imagination, you can be what you want to be, confidence, all of this comes together. And I always talk to my girls, and independence. Whatever you do, you need to be independent, and you need to be able to make it on your own. So thank you for that. That's, I'm sure that your daughter will be very inspired as she grows up and really goes back and read that book as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the other thing, obviously, you're wearing many different hats. I talked about at the beginning, you're an athlete, an author, a venture capitalist, a mom. How do you hope your success helps inspire other women, particularly young girls, across the globe?
Again, I never started out for this, I just wanted to, I was just a girl in Compton trying to play tennis, and I still try to always remain that person. And yeah, that's the best that I can do.
I can actually tell you that how impactful is that based on the experience that I had this morning. So to your point, it just maybe just being who you are, being that authentic and being that good. I mean, that's enough when people are watching, because they're taking a lot of that away. And like I said, I don't know what happened to that state trooper in Greensboro, North Carolina, but he felt inspired enough to be able to let me go and feel that it's a powerful moment. So we thank you for doing what you're doing and being you. I have one last question before you leave us today. Obviously, everybody say that you are the greatest of all time on what you did. So my question is, what does winning look like for you in the next phase of your life?
Oh, you know what? I would say that it would be, oh my gosh, I forgot she played tennis. That sums it up. Yeah, it was like, oh, and she was this amazing tennis player too. So that's how good I want my next career to be. And that's just helping people, and whatever that is, that's how I want it to be.
Oh my God, that is amazing, and it's also inspiring. To your point, I mean, it's just unbelievable. So, Serena, I cannot thank you enough. Everybody here at MetLife and across our partner, we are so thrilled to have you, for you to share some of your insights and how you are transitioning to something different, but also letting go of something that you had been so good about it, and what you're learning from this. All of this has been an inspiration discussion for us. So we wish you nothing but the best of luck for you as you're moving forward. And thank you, everybody, for being here with us today. So thank you, Serena.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.